So in this video, we're going to do some multiplying, but in a slightly different sense than what we've been used to. We're not going to multiply in the sense of just saying like 5 times 3 is 15. We're actually going to multiply these expressions you see here, which are referred to as binomials. A binomial is nothing more than an algebraic expression that is made up of two terms that are either being added or subtracted. So in this case, x plus 4 is a binomial because it's made up of two terms, the x and the 4. And in this case, those terms are being added. Whereas if I go, say, to this middle example, x minus 5 is a binomial because it's made up of two terms, the x and the 5. And in this case, they're being subtracted. So what we're going to be dealing with here is multiplying of two binomials. So going back to the first example, we're going to multiply this binomial of x plus 4 by this binomial of x plus 2. And what we're essentially going to be doing is making use of the distributive property, but twice over, so double distributing. And sometimes mathematicians refer to this process as FOIL because there's a certain order in which you distribute that's based on multiplying what we'll refer to as the first terms, followed by multiplying what is referred to as the outside terms, followed by what is referred to as the inside terms, followed by what is referred to as the last terms. And then we'll put everything together. And what we'll discover is when we multiply, particularly outside, inside, we're going to get um, two like terms that we can combine. So without further ado, let's get started. So what I'm going to first start with is taking this x, because it's essentially, although it's in its own parentheses, it's outside this parenthesis here. So I can take this x and distribute it to that x there. That's my f, my first term is being FOIL. Now we should know that x times x is x squared. I'm going to continue with that x, and I'm going to jump it also to the 2. That's my O, that's my outside. So 2x times 2, I know, is plus 2x. Now I've taken that x and I've done everything I can with it. I've distributed, if that x were alone outside of the x plus 2, I could distribute it to the x to give me x squared. I could distribute it to the 2 to give me 2x. So I've done all of my distributing there. But this is where the double distributing comes in. There's now another term for me to distribute from this first binomial. I can take this 4 and I can distribute to the x. And those are what we're going to refer to as my inside terms. And we know that that's like my I of my FOIL. So that's going to give me 4x. But then one more time, I can take this 4, if we were to envision it being all by itself outside this parentheses, I can distribute to the x, and I can distribute to the 2, that's the L. 4 times 2 we know is 8. Now, if you notice, and as I mentioned, I'm going to clean this up a little bit. If you notice, and as I mentioned, if we do this in the proper order, then when we get to the outside and inside terms, you notice we have like terms. We have 2x and we have 4x, and that's going to become 6x in the middle. That's being added to the x squared. That's then having the 8 added to it. So by the time we're all done, who would have known that multiplying this binomial x plus 4 times this binomial x plus 2 will give us this end result of x squared plus 6x plus 8. So let's see if we can work through that again. I'm going to start, and this next example I'm going to do in a slightly different way. I'm going to start by taking my x, and I'm not going to focus so much on this FOIL method. I'm going to focus more so on this idea of double distributing. So I'm going to take this x in the first binomial. I'm going to distribute it to x again in the other binomial. That gives me x squared. And I'm going to distribute that x to the second term in that second binomial. X times negative 5 gives me negative 5x. I'm then going to go back, and here's my double distributing. I'm taking this 6 now, and this is the distributing I'm going to do. 6 times x. I'm going to write it down below. I'm going to kind of do this staggered, almost like staircase method. That's going to give me 6x. And I'm going to do x times, careful here, that's negative 5. That's going to give me minus 30. And what I like about this is that now I essentially have like these columns of like terms. So this in particular is where I'm going to be able to do my combining when I'm ready. So I'm going to bring my x squared down because there's nothing that I can combine with it. I'm going to be careful. Negative 5x plus 6x. Negative 5 plus positive 6 is going to give me plus 1x or plus x. And then I'm going to have that minus 30 because you notice there's no constants that can be combined with it there. So this is our end result once again. X squared plus x minus 30. Now you notice when I do all of this distributing in the proper order, I have this, my first term of what I'm going to call a trinomial, tri meaning 3 pieces. The first term of my trinomial is going to be x squared. The middle term of my trinomial is going to be something x. And the final term of my trinomial is going to be a constant, something without a variable. So we want to make sure we put things in the right order as well. So let's do this last one and see if we can just kind of get the hang of it. So let's see. I can do x times x is x squared. I can distribute that x again times negative 3 is negative 3x. Here's where my double distributing comes up because I've distributed the x already as one round of distributing. I can distribute the negative 8 as my second round. Negative 8 times x minus 8x. Negative 8, careful, times negative 3, and negative times negative is going to give me positive 24. Once again, you're going to see an opportunity to do some combining like terms. So this is aligning similar to the way I did the first one. Whether you do this horizontal arrangement like we did in the first and the last example, or this more vertical arrangement, that's a matter of taste. So whatever you decide to do, you'll still get the same end result. So by the time we're all done, we should wind up with the x squared. Careful with your combining, negative 3x and negative 8x. Two negatives added gives us a more negative number, negative 11x, and then plus 24. Okay, so that is what we call foiling, otherwise known as double distributing. What I'd like you to do is apply this technique to these last 3 problems, and I will post these solutions up for you so you can check them up on Google Classroom. And then we'll talk more when we meet again. See you soon.